Welcome back to another installment of Decatur Dish. I am Maria Moreau, joined by our media partners at Decatur Dish, the one and only Dan Wisenhunt here with me. Dan, happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday to you, Maria.
Hey, so we do this show every week where we like to take folks through what's been going on in DeKalb County, because this is a county that never seems to stop having news and developments and community stories, and we want to highlight that here. So what you got for me?
Well, we want to start with a really sad story. Charlene Zidane is a DeKalb fire captain. She was recently promoted. Right around the time she was pursuing that, she was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer. She found out the day after her father passed. She has 6 grandbabies. She has a lot of stuff going on in her life. And unfortunately, she lost that fight with cancer. She passed away on Sunday. Very sad story. I don't really know how to convey my condolences for something so horrible to her and her family, but our firefighters do a lot of great things in our community, and I think many people in DeKalb County would rate the fire department as one of the best services that we offer. So we really count on them and depend on them, and Decatur just extends our condolences to her and her family and her colleagues at DeKalb Fire and Rescue.
You know, we highlighted this story on Atlanta News First as well, and I really think it was one of those that transcends counties. A lot of people felt the weight of that loss, so to her family, to her fire family as well. You know, this is something that they are reeling from, and they have the backing of all of us in the community that is grieving alongside them. Yeah. Let's talk about another story, and this one really coming down to the wire. I want to talk about DeKalb County Animal Services calling for a plea to help them rescue or foster some pets and keep them off of the euthanasia list.
Right. The DeKalb County Animal Shelter used to be a no-kill shelter, which means that they would only euthanize animals for specific reasons, but not for space. There was a surge in people adopting pets during COVID, followed by a surge in people abandoning pets after COVID. There were a lot of things driving that. Housing affordability, not the least among them. DeKalb Shelter recently put out a call. They put out these calls periodically saying they need to get some dogs adopted so they don't have to euthanize them to fill space. I was looking at the counter last night, so it looks like as of last night, they have about 29 left to adopt out of 43 that they had originally. They're trying to get it down to a target population. The current, it's overcrowded. The current number of dogs in the shelter is 524. They're trying to lower that to get it to where they need to be.
495.
495.
Yep.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So they're out there. The animal shelter is open 7 days a week. They were trying to get it done by today. If you're watching this right now and you need a pup, go to the DeKalb Animal Shelter and pick one out. They'll cut you a real good deal, I bet, trying to help some of these animals get into a loving home and out of the shelters where they all want animals to be in this county. So please, if you've got room in your life and in your heart for a new pup, go visit the DeKalb Animal Shelter and pick up a dog today.
Certainly, and I know a lot of folks, they want to help, and it comes down to financials or
Sure.
otherwise. They are waiving adoption fees. They are helping you adopt this pet, spayed, neutered, microchipped, all of the things that you will need when you are bringing in a furry friend. So it's a good opportunity if you are facing a financial hurdle to be able to foster or adopt and help some animals out.
Save a life.
Save a life. Hey, let's talk about Greater Decatur for a moment. I hear that there has been a push to bring some coffee shops, drive-through coffee shops, to Greater Decatur, and there's been some unfortunate developments with that.
Well, they withdrew the application. They were going to do a Caribou Coffee. Interesting thing about that is there was already a drive-through at one of those locations because it had a drive-through cleaner, I think. So they were going to do a Caribou Coffee in another drive-through shop. They introduced that in 2023. They just withdrew the application this month. I don't know why the applications were withdrawn, but I have a theory. If it lingered in the county zoning process for that long, they probably moved on to better opportunities. What's interesting to me about that corridor, Maria, is Chick-fil-A recently tried to get a new drive-through restaurant approved just down the street from its current Chick-fil-A. The neighbors said no, and Chick-fil-A said, you know what? We're going to do mobile ordering instead. So now you've got an app on your phone. You order it. It detects when you leave your house. You show up. You push the button on the app. Say, I'm here. Bring me my Chicky Bicky, and they'll bring the chicken biscuit out or whatever you're ordering that day. I don't know. I'm just using that as an example. And it works. There are no long lines. There are no cars hanging out in the street blocking traffic. This could be a new delivery model. Back in the day when drive-thrus were a thing, we didn't have all these wonderful bits of technology like phone apps and the like. So Chick-fil-A is a industry leader and trendsetter in how to manage long lines, and they seem to have this figured out. So I would not be shocked if you start to see more restaurants sort of pivot to that model of parking and ordering on your app. It's actually, in many ways, more efficient than sitting in the drive-through line. But getting back to the point at hand, there were a couple of drive-through restaurants. They just lingered in planning and zoning too long, and these business deals, they're largely contingent upon the zoning getting lined up, and if that doesn't happen, business people move on. So it's back to square one for those businesses. We'll see how they get redeveloped. Obviously, there's going to be some relation to what goes on at the Lula Hills / North DeKalb Mall development. That's coming online, so it could affect the mix of businesses we see around that area.
It seems like a popular idea. I would hope to see it back in the news and back in conversation as we go further and further into this year. The big story that doesn't seem to leave the news cycle, though, I'm afraid, is the issue around water. So there have been more developments. I feel like we talk about this every single segment, every week. More developments from the commission now deferring the vote surrounding water and sewer rates. Talk to me about that.
It's a big deal. We're asking ratepayers who have already put up with a lot to put up with even more when it comes to fixing our dilapidated and outdated water infrastructure. So currently the proposal is 10 by 10, real catchy, 10% over 10 years. The current average monthly water bill for a customer in DeKalb County is about $70. In 10 years, that would go up to $180. And we actually have a special guest today. Catherine Maddox with DeKalb Water Watch, a local advocacy group, is going to join us and talk about what they're doing with regards to this issue and how they're following it and what they're advocating for.
We're going to take you to that conversation just after this short break.
You want me to? And joining us is Catherine Maddox with the advocacy group DeKalb Water Watch. Catherine, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Dan. Thank you so much for having us on.
Well, thank you so much for joining us to talk about these important issues related to DeKalb County's water infrastructure. What is DeKalb Water Watch in a nutshell?
So DeKalb Water Watch is a resident-led coalition that was started in 2016 by Star McKenzie and just another group of concerned residents about growing DeKalb water bills that had become exorbitantly high.
Star McKenzie is a longtime advocate, somebody who's been involved for a while. Is she still head of the organization? And you're just you're kind of a spokesperson, advocate?
Yes. So Star is still very much in charge of and a part of this campaign. We're still under her leadership. I am simply here to add capacity and to make meetings, and we've had so many residents join us over the years as this issue's culminated, so I'm an extra set of hands.
Well, Star McKenzie was doing the Lord's work for a long time. So, Star, we know you're watching, so we appreciate everything that you do and have done and continue to do for us ratepayers here in DeKalb County. How many members does DeKalb Water Watch have now?
So, I'm not exactly sure of a particular amount. Our Facebook group is over 5,000 people, and we have had people regularly attend our meetings, and when we have calls to attend the public meetings in the county, those are always packed out. So we know that this is an issue that is continuing to affect residents, and which is why we're so excited about the legislation we've succeeded to get on the table coming up for a vote this Tuesday.
Let's talk about the issue of the day, this water rate increase. It's been a long time since DeKalb County has proposed something like this. Mm-hmm. We're talking about increasing water bills 10% every year for 10 years. They're calling it the 10 by 10. Average water bill for a customer per month is $70. This would increase it to $180 by the time the 10-year time frame is up. Where does DeKalb Water Watch stand on this issue?
Sure. So firstly, I just think that we have to be really careful when we're talking about averages when it comes to bills, right? Because when we talk about water affordability, we really have to break up residents into income quintiles. So something that our advocacy group really had to take an issue with was someone who was part of the county said something to the effect of most residents in DeKalb County only pay 1% of their income towards water. When the Legal Defense Fund's analyst went through the water bills of DeKalb County, they found that that was definitely not the case, and that in fact currently 15% of DeKalb residents are paying water bills that are considered unaffordable by the UN's affordability standard, which is set at 3% of a person's income. So for residents in Lithonia, for example, where you have residents whose median income is $33,000 per year, those residents are paying 25% of those residents rather are facing unaffordable water bills even before this rate increase. What we have to take away from that is the hardest hit residents by this issue are lower income residents, for whom, a dollar means so much more. So we really have to be careful with this rate increase that there's also affordability measures that are taken at the same time.
You raise an excellent point, Catherine, in that these averages do kind of dilute what people are paying depending on where they live and depending on their situation. Do you think that's a deliberate choice to talk about it this way, or is it just easier to talk about it that way? Why is equity not at the forefront of this conversation?
I'm not really sure how the consultants arrived at that 1% figure. They, according to the county, we're both using the same data. We're both looking at census data. I just know that for sure we were breaking down the data into income quintiles, which makes the most sense.
Zoe Seiler, our assistant editor, has done some excellent work covering this story and this topic. She notes that the last time DeKalb County has actually increased its water rates was in 2022. So we are long overdue for a water rate increase. Do you have any thoughts about why this has been so hard for the county to take up when clearly we have needs that need to be addressed? Why hasn't county taken more action up until this point?
Sure. I think that there's been a lot of lack of transparency when it comes to water infrastructure issues in the county. It's not the sexiest issue. And also, when it comes to the consent decree, I just think that there's just not that much information that's out in the forefront and accessible to residents. So our community group's stance really on this rate increase is that we aren't necessarily against it, but that we feel that that's the county's business. Our priority is making sure that whatever rates that the county decides on, that they ensure to protect the residents who are the most affected by these high water bills as it is, and who are also the most affected residents by the infrastructure problems.
Catherine, before the show, we were talking about how the news has traditionally covered these topics, and one of the things that you noted is often missed are the effects that this will have on residents in South DeKalb. So how will this be a different experience for residents who live in South DeKalb, and why is that not always conveyed in coverage of this issue?
So this kind of delves into the consent decree that the county has entered into with the Department of Justice and the EPA. So this goes back a long time. There was an original consent decree in which the county was required to repair its damaged sewer pipes. They did not meet that deadline, and so they entered into a modified consent decree. In that modified consent decree, the county separated the county into priority and non-priority areas for repairs. The non-priority areas were not given a repair deadline. And so if you're not given a repair deadline within a consent decree, you're not really a part of it. And the non-priority areas are all located in South DeKalb. And unfortunately, these are the same residents who are the most affected by water shutoffs, according to an analysis by the Legal Defense Fund, and by extension, high water bills. So what this means is that residents who are paying the most from their income towards water, they're not included in these repairs that they're paying so much towards.
And how does that happen? How do we get there?
That was what the county negotiated with the EPA, so that's what they decided was appropriate.
And how does that contribute to the dynamic involving what work gets done in the consent decree? Because we continue to miss these deadlines. It's going to potentially cost us a lot of money, which we still haven't been able to get the answer to whether these rate increases will pay for the fines that the county is incurring. How does that dynamic affect the work that gets done in these parts of DeKalb County?
Well, there's been a lot of back and forth between the county and local advocates about this question for a long time. Dr. Jacqueline Eccles, who is the board president of the South River Watershed Alliance, actually sued the county over the modified consent decree and separating the county into priority and non-priority areas, saying it was a violation of the Clean Water Act. Everyone has to pay a water bill, so everyone's sewer pipe should be a priority in getting repaired. And so I think that where the consent decree and the repairs stand now all go to prove what Dr. Eccles had said was correct, which is that if you look at the consent decree, there are 14 fixed sites in South DeKalb that have not been repaired. So South DeKalb continues to be ignored, and those repairs continue to go by the wayside with this current deprioritization of those sites.
As you noted, the water infrastructure issue affects everybody living in this county, no matter what part of the county you live in, but obviously there's going to be some equity issues involved when it comes to paying for that. In your opinion, what's a more equitable way to distribute the burden of fixing this stuff?
Sure. So I think that the UN affordability standard is a really good standard to go by. No resident should pay more than 3% of their incomes towards water. That's what's considered to be affordable. So one of our policy goals that's been presented in legislation, and that was seen so pragmatic by county administrators that they have actually adopted this into their rate plan, is going to be an income-based payment program for lower income residents, which will include a 3% cap for residents who are living at 200% or below the federal poverty guidelines. So I think that 3% of someone's income is just what the county needs to keep their eye on, and just to make sure that no resident has to pay above that, and to ensure that these programs are implemented.
Catherine, one of the things DeKalb Water Watch is asking for, in addition to be added to this rate increase discussion, is a consumer advocate office. Tell us, where did that idea come from, and where does that idea stand?
Sure. So the Customer Advocate Office was inspired by the Water for All program in Baltimore, who also has a Customer Advocate Office and a really robust water protections. Baltimore has not had to shut off anyone's water since 2015, and they are also boasting record revenues. So, this idea that you have to threaten someone with shutting off their water in order to, make sure that the county gets enough revenue is actually a myth. There have also been studies done on this. And it's actually a little bit archaic, considering water is a human right, and we are still living in a global pandemic. The LDF, the Legal Defense Fund, the first analysis they did in DeKalb was that they showed that families and residents with disabilities have been disparately impacted by water shutoffs. And if you have someone with disabilities, or you have young children in the home, that interrupts their development. You have to be really, really careful when you're talking about something as extreme as shutting off somebody's water.
Catherine, we wanted to tell our viewers really quickly, you've got a website set up. What's that website, and what is it for?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a call to action right now. Where we have some policy goals, as I mentioned earlier. One is the implementation of a customer advocate office, which will include residents' situations in if they have a billing dispute. It won't just be kind of like a bill collection process, which it is right now, being handled by the finance department. It's going to be an independent office. We also have the income-based water affordability program, as well as shut-off protections for vulnerable residents. All of that legislation is going to be on the table and up for a vote this coming Tuesday. So if you go to our website, I think it's going to be up on your screen right now. It is a click and send email to encourage your commissioners to vote favorably on our legislation, so that we can make sure to ensure equity for all residents when it comes to their right to water.
And what's the URL for the people listening on podcast?
It's on the AFSC website.
Gotcha, AFFC, and they can find that by Googling it?
No, I'm not exactly sure.
Tell you what, DeKalb Water Watch has a Facebook page.
Yes.
Look that up. All that information is going to be right there. Catherine Maddox, thank you so much for joining us. We hope you'll join us again to talk more about these important issues related to watershed.
Thanks so much, Dan.
This is the Decatur Dish Show. We air right here every Tuesday on ANF Plus at 12:30 p.m. Check us out on the ANF Plus app. You can download that on your cell phones or on your streaming devices. To check out all the latest news from Decatur-ish, visit decatorish.com, and to sign up for our daily email, visit locallysourcednews.com. With that, we hope everyone has a great week. Stay warm, and we'll see you all next week on Tuesday at 12:30 p.m. right here on ANF Plus.